This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everybody. I want to tell you about a wonderful organization, we'll call it that to start, that provides full-service catering, full-service party planning, events, all of that for the Long Island, New York metro area. They do so much, from corporate events to weddings, private events, and so much more. We're talking about the food. Right away, you got my attention. And I'm somewhat of a foodie, I'm going to admit it. And that is the name of what we got here today. Foodies Cafe and Catering. And the man behind it all, Rich Laurelli, joins us on the program. How are you doing today?
Very good, Steve. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Food is having a moment, as it always does, but I think we're taking a look at a lot of the catering, a lot of the events we go to, a lot of things we plan with an eye on the food. You know, if it's something different, something special. I'm just going to go right there. What is, when it comes to appetizers, what is the most requested thing you get? And is it the traditional stuff that we're all aware of, or is there some new stuff going on here?
Well, we make all our appetizers and everything from scratch, and we make everything fresh. We try to feel out our clients here and there. I always ask them what's their most favorite foods, what was something that they enjoyed when they were growing up, and try to dive in that way, you know. So a couple of the appetizers that we make, which are pretty nice, is we make these vegetable risotto cakes that we use for hors d'oeuvres. It's a nice risotto with different cheeses in there, grana padano, a little bit of impastata, Parmesan, and we have some spinach in there. We have some butternut squash puree in there, fresh herbs, chives. So that's one of the nice items. I probably make more coconut shrimp than anyone in the world, because it seems that everybody gets that. You know, everybody wants that on their plate, and we serve that with a nice sweet Thai chili sauce. So those are two of the items that we make a ton of, and we sell them to all our catering events as appetizers and appetizers and hors d'oeuvres. You know, one of the other things we do is, we make an eggplant caponata that's off the chart, and we serve that many different ways. We have it on our restaurants, in the restaurants on the menus, as well as all the catered events and charcuterie boards and things like that. So those are a couple of the things that we do pretty well.
So charcuterie, it's tough for a lot of people to say that. It took me a while to get it. It's I've been having a moment for a year or two. Is it still pretty strong?
Very strong. So it's a great topic for me, because I have that going on tonight. So what I'm doing is, there's a furniture showroom, that's entertaining different people. They're having kind of like an open house. So I'm going there and I'm doing some charcuterie for them and some different things. And they'll be having like different bruschettas and crostinis, and as well as with the salamis and the cheeses, because, we always try to mix it up, make sure there's, vegan options and, gluten-free options and the whole bit for people. And tomorrow evening, I'm going to a different showroom that sells countertops and quartz. So we do a huge charcuterie board on a marble table, and it's just a flat layout. And then we have different things all sectioned out on the marble. And the marble is roughly, I would say, 3 feet by 6 feet. And we cover the whole thing with food. And people come in, they start taking pictures, and they love it, and they love it. So, the other thing they're doing over there as a kind of a fun thing is they're passing out small chunks, like small tablets of the quartz, and we're giving people a charcuterie kit to bring home with them so they can make their own board. So it's wild.
Is fantastic. I love the creativity, ties totally into the client and what they're trying to do. And I feel like the door just swung open to so many other businesses on Long Island, New York metro area, to have somebody come in and provide this type of catering, where if you said to me, there's a quartz showroom and they're going to be serving food and you can, I'd say, what are you talking about? And I heard about this a few years ago. Actually, I attended it. There was a place in Huntington. It was an appliance place. and they did somewhat of what you're describing,
Yeah,
where
Appliance World.
that's it. It was, who
Yeah.
would ever think you got, you know,
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah, I do. I've done cooking demos there. It's amazing.
yeah, it's like world class food at an appliance place, but it actually is a beautiful blend. Tell us about Foodies. You have a location in Carl Place, but you do so much more. Take us through that journey.
Okay, so there's kind of two ends of the foodies end there. So we have the Call Place Village Delicatessen. That's my brick and mortar. That's embedded into the community in Call Place. And so what Foodies is a separate catering company that I had started before I had purchased the deli. And what that is we go into these private clubs, like the two yacht clubs, the Seacliff Yacht Club and Yonko Corinthian Yacht Club. So we go into these clubs and we have the catering contracts there. So we run their restaurants, we do all their club events, and we do weddings and showers and bar mitzvahs and sweet 16s and wedding rehearsals and anything you can imagine. So it's pretty neat because when with the clubs, you have to be very diverse in your skills and your food because one day you're doing a swim meet for 300 people,
Mm.
and then the next day you're doing elegant dining for 110 people. So it's really interesting, and what the deli does for me is it gives me the opportunity to be able to facilitate all these different type things.
Does it ever get old for you? It sounds like every day is a different day.
Every day is a different day, yes. Yes. And my employees remind me of that regularly. So no
Hmm.
one has the chance to get bored.
Um, Before we got on here, because we just both happened to be on Long Island, I said there's probably a connection between the two of us, and I went on your website and a event company. I'll just call it that. The gentleman that runs that company, I know him, and apparently you work with him. So I know there'd be some kind of connection there. What is the most unusual food appetizer request that you've ever gotten, Rich?
That's a good one. Um, so I did a wedding a bunch of years back, and the bride was Pakistani, and the groom was Jewish.
Hmm.
And so we were doing pakoras and different Indian and Pakistani type dishes, and we also had a Jewish deli set up right there in the middle of the room. So we were
Wow.
kind of covering all the bases.
Sure.
So that was an interesting request. One of our specialties is different seafoods and stuff. So for carving stations, one of the grooms was an avid fisherman, and he caught some striped bass. So what I did was I roasted the fish whole,
Wow.
and we did whole striped bass, the bone in it, in front of the guests for the cocktail hour. So that was pretty interesting. And
That really is. I would never even thought of that. If somebody fishes and bringing in what they caught, and then you're cooking it for the guests, and also the person throwing the party. What a way! Hey, yeah, I caught that earlier today before I got dressed. It's
right.
pretty wild. Wow.
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, with the yacht clubs and stuff, a lot of these people they're going out tuna fishing and stuff like that, and they bring everything back to me, and we make big dinners for everybody with their catch, and that's kind of fun and neat.
Hmm.
Um, one of my philosophies always was before I opened Foodies, I worked for some pretty big caterers and hotels and private clubs and stuff like that, and I never got a chance to ask people what was important to them. What's important to you about your wedding? How do you want your food? What would you like? And when I opened my own business and I said, no, I'm going to be specific to the needs of my client. So I could pretty much honestly say I've never done two weddings exactly the same because there's always something that's going to be different about their events because everybody's different. Everyone's got something to remember from somewhere,
And
and
that's
that's
what
how I
makes it
do it.
special when
It
you,
is.
you know,
It's cool.
a year after the event, a week, doesn't matter, that you're reflecting back to it. And I have to say, and please tell me if you agree with this, that people remember the food. They might forget about, maybe the band, the DJ, maybe the venue. They always remember the food. They'll always have a comment about the food. Do you find that true?
I do. And it's interesting when I see people later on. And a lot of times my clients are repeat because after they get married and if they're having children, they come to me
Mm,
for their christenings and communions and all, so on and so on. And I've had people for a long time that I've been doing family celebrations for, and family members will come up to me and they will look for me. They'll be like, "Where's Rich? We want to say hello." And, "Oh, remember here, and you made this for us. Remember there, you made that for us." And it's the nice part about the business. And when you work your tail as much, as most people do, it's nice to get that word of recognition. It's cool.
sure. Especially knowing that you made an impression on somebody or family, and now you're carrying that on within their lineage for the next event and the next event. Have you always had an affinity for food, Rich? Like even as a kid, was that, your thing? Tell us about your journey.
Yes. All right. So my journey started very young. My my mother was a great cook. My aunts, my grandmother. I had an uncle who had a smokehouse over in Lindenhurst, which I thought was the coolest thing.
Hmm,
So I always had a good vision. Everyone had big gardens. I had a big garden. Um, so I was always part of it, the canning process, the mason jars, everything that was going on then. And then as I got a little older, I was a horrible paper boy. So I needed to do something else at the time when I was young. So I got a job as a dishwasher in an Italian restaurant and then moved on to a French restaurant. And so I used to see what the chefs used to make over there. And then I would go home and try to make it at home for my family. And so I started moving in that direction. I wound up working in a big restaurant down on Jones Beach. It was called the Boardwalk Restaurant.
sure.
They used to seat about 500, 600 people.
Is that now the
Um,
Gatsby?
well, the Gatsby is the West Bathhouse. So the boardwalk
Okay.
was on Field 4 in the Central Mall. They did put something else up after the hurricane had taken out the old one. But so
Hmm,
that was a really cool spot. And what I did there was I was the steward. So I was in charge of receiving all the food, purchasing all the food, the china, the glassware, all that kind of stuff. So I got a real good idea of some of the business aspect of the whole thing. And while I was doing that, I was learning the different jobs in there, like butchering and making soups. And I used to make, it's a funny story, I used to make 120 gallons of Manhattan clam chowder at a clip. So it was pretty interesting. It was cool. And then I just kept on evolving and moving and getting into private clubs and hotels and working in Manhattan, and it was just some great stuff. Some of my experience in Manhattan was just off the chart. The people that I had met and cooked for and stuff because we were right over by the UN and the club. It was called the Yale Club in New York. That's what it is, and it's been there for many, 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 many years, and it's hosted so many important people and politicians and presidents and ambassadors and stuff. So
wow.
that's really where my background had come from, and I always wanted to do my own thing, and that's where I am now.
Do you feel that you kind of got the best of all worlds here, where you have the brick and mortar, call it the deli, that's over to the side over here, but then you get to work at venues, you get to do consulting, you can come up with dishes and things. I mean, it seems like now it's a 360 approach.
It is. So, I like it that way. Some people they think it's, a little confusing at time,
Mhm.
but which it can be. But with my background in the hotels and stuff of doing multiple functions and running restaurants at the same time, I kind of adapt that experience into my own business. And I like the aspect of having the different components to the business because it helps with the buying power. It helps with diversifying ingredients, being able to make people anything I want at any time. And it just keeps everything fresh. I mean, that's really the bottom line. It keeps everything fresh.
I was just that's the word I was going to say, and I didn't want to, pun intended. With the food is
Yeah.
fresh, but just the experience. And I get you. I've done radio forever. Of course, I do podcasts. I also have a marketing company, and it's kind of fun. Rotating. It can be a challenge sometimes. Especially you've got a lot of responsibility there with these events, but like I said, every day is a new day. How about we talked about appetizers and hors d'oeuvres. What about dessert? What would you say for events, whether it's a wedding or a social event or whatever it is? What would you say are the top three requested desserts right now?
So we make a white chocolate, dark chocolate mousse cake that we actually make it in lined PVC pipes. So we have the ability of making with the recipes up to about 28 feet at a time, which can serve roughly 750 people.
Well, before we get
So
continue, I just want to get the visual of that. PVC pipe. Are we talking about you cut the pipe in half and then it sits inside that?
exactly,
Wow, that's so
exactly.
cool. It's
It
almost like
is.
getting that, the 12, the 5 foot hero where they put it on the board. This is a dessert in PVC pipe.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
exactly it. Then you just flip
Jeez.
it off, flip it over, and then you start cutting for the masses. So we sell a good amount of that. We make individual pies. So we make like 3.5 inch tart shells. I served them yesterday actually for a luncheon that I did. And depending on what kind of berries are in season and stuff. So usually it's like an apple base, and then we'll do like apple blackberry or something like that, or strawberry blueberry, depending on on what's happening with the different berries and stuff in the market. And I always have plenty of that around because I'm doing so many different fruit platters, out the deli for the catering businesses, for the continental breakfasts, for all that kind of stuff. So, usually what I do when I know that I have something coming up that needs a different dessert or whatever, I kind of look around the fridge and, see what I got, and then,
Hmm.
throw it together for people. I make them a gazillion cannolis and cookies and tiramisu and stuff like that, all from scratch, and people just love it.
I had tiramisu a couple of weeks ago, and it was the first time I got to the bottom of it. I'm like, this tastes like alcohol. And it was chocolate mixed with alcohol. I've never had it before. In fact, I mean, a minute amount, but it added like a little zing to it. Is that kind
Yes.
of traditional that that's the way it's done?
It is for me. So
Hmm.
I like to use some good amaretto, some Kahlua, a little bit of Liquor 43, which is a vanilla liqueur. I put some of that in there for the tiramisu. In our whipped creams, we always put a little bit of rum. Um, or triple sec, or if I'm making, it depends on what time of the year. So if it's like in the summertime, I'll take a little bit of apricot brandy, a little bit of peach schnapps or something like that to kind of liven up different creams and
Hmm.
that, or sponge the cakes and stuff like that before we seal them up and decorate them.
The amazing thing is, you might not even know there's alcohol in there. It's not like you're not going to feel the effects. It's such a minute amount, but it just elevates the flavor to just like a little, like a little zing. That's the best way I could describe it. But it adds so much. It's amazing. I
Yeah,
never
it's great.
realized
There's a
it.
couple ingredients that we use that for different things that people always ask me about, like what was that? What was that? One of them is cinnamon oil. You just need a slight drop of that, and it goes such a long way, and it has a distinct flavor to it. And the other thing is rose water. A lot of people don't really know what to do with that. It's a staple in baklava and different Greek desserts and stuff like that. But it's really great. I like to soak some of that on the cakes and stuff like that. You make a little
Wow.
simple syrup with it, and it really comes out great.
Are there any dishes, concoctions you have that it's proprietary? Now it's like this is a secret rich recipe. Anything like that floating out there?
Well, uh, there is some like the eggplant caponata is kind of signature. a couple of different of the of soups and sauces are signature. But I kind of I kind of keep everything like recognizable for people
Hmm.
because it's very important. When with my clients in the private clubs, I'm seeing them all the time. It's not like people that are just coming in once a month or once a year for a special occasion. They're coming in regularly, you know. So I have to change my ingredients up and change my dishes up a little bit and the preparations and all that kind of stuff. But it has to be recognizable for them. They have to know that the lamb chops are going to be lamb chops and they're going to taste like lamb chops, and things like that. So I could get creative, but I have to be kind of reined in a bit on some certain ingredients and stuff.
Okay, so that, great point you bring up. Do you find that it's a delicate blend when you make a dish? Because some of us like it spicy. Some of us like it, I don't want to say bland, but we like it basic. We don't like to get surprised. If we want to add something, we can. Do you find that sometimes can be a challenge where you got to kind of meet them in the middle?
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
you do, and a lot of that comes through just like with educating the staff. You know,
Mm.
we make an amazing rice ball, and we use this product. It's called Denuja, and it's an Italian imported salami paste. So I take this paste and I cook it into the risotto, and it livens things up. It gives it spice, but yet it doesn't overpower everything. So when you mild it down a little bit with the Parmesan and the Pecorino and the different cheeses that go into this rice ball, it kind of evens things out a little bit. So some people are going to try it and they're going to say, "Oh wow, that's a little bit spicy," but no one's going to be like, "Oh my God, I can't eat this."
Yep. Yeah.
So it goes that direction.
It sounds like you're walking a tightrope. You gotta get, just right. You have so many great reviews. Google, The Knot, and on and on and on. This may be a little of a woo question, but do you feel that when you're making different dishes, that it's the intent you put into it? Where am I going with this? They always said, like, grandma's food, it's just good. Well, grandma puts love into it, and that's why it tastes so good. Do you find that it's the intent you put into it? Because it seems that way. You're transparent about all the ingredients. There's nothing held back here. Do you feel
Right.
it's, that's what's happening there in the kitchen when you're making something?
Yeah, I mean, I instill that into everybody. I have chefs that work with me and work for me, and I have other people in the kitchen that help out, and I'm fortunate that so many of them really want to rise to the occasion, and they've seen the effort and the love that we put into it, and cooking at home with my son and daughter and my wife, and that's what we talk about.
Mm.
We talk about the love, we talk about different things. I always think about, my parents. So my parents who were extremely supportive of me throughout my whole life and really helped me and guide me through my career to bring me to different butcher shops and take me to different markets and show me different things and different foods and help me with my gardens and all that. So, I listen to all that and I take that all into consideration and it's about loving the food and using the freshest ingredients you can find.
I think maybe that's why they say food is life. It's not just eating. There's so much more to it. For anybody that is in the Long Island area, the New York metropolitan area, whether you have a catering facility, whether you're getting married, all of the above, what's the best way to connect with you and your team, Rich?
Well, you can contact us on our website, which is foodiescafeli.com. You can call the Call Place Village Deli directly, ask for Rich. You can there's many ways that you can find us. Probably the website will probably be the best for an inquiry on an event. I have a team in place that gets back to people right away, and our customer service, I believe, is excellent. You know, when I hired my people in that area, it was through by doing their wedding.
Mm.
And, I always said, I said, well, we're going to go out and we're going to, we're gonna treat people the way they need to be treated. And we're gonna go out and we're gonna do the right thing. Sometimes we're gonna get hurt. Sometimes it's gonna be very rewarding, but we're gonna take those chances. We're gonna stick our chin out, and we're always gonna do the right thing by everybody.
Wow. Fantastic talking with you today. Full disclosure, for lunch, I had a boring protein bar. So hearing about the risotto and all these dishes, I'm like, oh, so much to talk about next time we get together. And I would even love to dig into weddings and some of the trends there that in terms of food you come across. Rich, thank you for being here today. Learned so much, and we'll catch up soon.
Steve, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Yep, we'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.